Pardon me. I started early because I was just sitting here. Do you know that in massage therapy, whatever you do to one side, you must also do to the other side? Pardon me. My, pardon me, my throat. My hair appointment, I pre-scheduled. I feel like my hair grew out much faster than last time. And I think I'm gonna get all over color this time. I'm not doing the highlights anymore. Just chit-chatting. Also, I okay, I feel good. I have went through and looked. Sunday. Sunday is the day that we will be done reading this book. So that is that. All right, I'm going to pray. God, I thank you so much for your love. I thank you for all the things that you have done, will do, and are doing. I ask that you please help me and whoever may come across this to hear something that you would like for us to hear. Anything that you would like for us not to hear, please mute it so we don't hear it, and maybe move on from it and just take in these moments with gratitude. Amen. Okay. So we are in autumn of Love Waits Again, 1952. Shell Mara was to be only a brief stay for my father. After 2 weeks there, helping lead a Bible camp for boys, he would be on to Shandia, the Tin Marshes station among the Quechuas. But despite his many responsibilities, despite all the adjustments to a new location, and despite the prying eyes of nosy young students wondering if he was writing again to a certain senorita whose picture they found under the lid of my suitcase, he managed to compose a number of letters to her, even during this time frame. He closed the first one with an appeal to write, darling, along with a charming P.S. comment that read, Sanchez just dropped by and sends casual greeting. Mine is not so. There. Sanchez just dropped by and sends casual greetings. Mine is not so. My mother's response was equally quick, August 19th. What a surprise it was for me when I went out to the T at the station to find a letter from you this afternoon. It was so good to hear, Jim, and I want you to know I appreciate your thoughtfulness in sending one up so soon. Oh my, I hardly knew what to think when you told of coming over to our wall on Friday morning looking for me. It's just a good thing I wasn't out there in pajamas. But if I'd had any idea you'd do that, I would have been up and dressed to see you. It's not that it didn't enter my mind to get up, but I thought it would be another case of standing there alone, aching for you to come, yet knowing that you are not aware I was there, as I've done several nights when I wanted to see you. That night, when I was alone in the house, longing to see you, I stood outside by the front wall for nearly an hour, seeing you rise from the dining room, saunter into the sala, play with the kids a while, light the light in your room, was hoping you'd gone for your coat. And then my heart sank again. I saw the desk light go on. After you started typing, I walked up the street till I could see just the edge of your face through a crack in the curtains. Well, I thought it would be easier to let our good night at the gate on Thursday be the last. But oh, I'm sorry, Jim. You know I would have come. The Lord has been so good. I can't describe the peace he's given since you've gone. I have no tears to tell you about, except just a few, and not really bitter, desolate ones. The feeling that predominates is one of deepest thanksgiving, first of all for the blessing of your love, and then for all the time God gave us together. It is, to me, literally, peace that passeth understanding. It seems strange to be seated by my window now, writing to you instead of expecting to see you at the gate at the moment. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. At the moment, where are you? Oh, as I go upstairs at night, I don't see Pete swinging his arms in the living room or you hoisting one of the kids up in the air, but somehow it seems just as normal this way, and I find that I can be perfectly content even though I'm not looking forward to seeing you at noon. The only explanation I find for it is a miracle of God. He is abundantly able. This piece from the fading summer of 1952 is reminiscent of what she'd written in her journal the previous Thanksgiving. I believe that perhaps the most effective balance wheel in a believer's life is just this. In each event of life, we are to give thanks. And that's exactly what she was doing here, giving thanks for what God had given them rather than bemoaning what they'd lost. My father's next letter from Shell struck the same thankful, peaceful, contented tone. August 21st. This will have to be a short one, Bets. It is after 6 a.m. and I have just come over to one of the sheds facing the airstrip to get away from the wake-up skirmishes of the bunkhouse. Tidmarsh arrived yesterday afternoon and said he would drop by on his way out this morning, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to drop you a note. I suppose you will be like I was yesterday, expecting against reason that word would be in the packet of mail. Knowing how sharp is even the smallest disappointment and wanting to spare you as many as possible, I will try to get this away. Thoughts of our Kyoto days are refreshing and restful. I find my mind always turning to you when I am ready for sleep. You and my relation to you are one of the surest relaxers I can bring to mind, the one subject over which I have prayed and thought and studied sufficiently to be completely at ease about. Back and forth they wrote nearly every day now. August 23rd. Tidmarsh came up yesterday a.m. with your letter. It was a second surprise, but so good to hear Jim, so very good. Sitting in Tidmarsh's living room the night they went to Shelmera, I remembered those mornings of April and May when I waited for you to come in for a minute or so before class. There has been marked development in my feeling since then. August 25th. Thanks so much, Betty, for your letters and the enclosures. I need yours as badly as you need mine. And now somehow they make you seem so much closer than our other correspondences. Not merely because you are nearer, but because I can read more of you into your letters, knowing you so much better than I have ever before, and feeling too, as I do now, hardly without knowing how it happened, that I can share all with you. Your family letters and affairs that I felt quiet about before, like meaningless happenings in my own life and family. Kyoto was a get acquainted period, and we needed it more than we knew. No. You won't know how glad I was to hear of the hardly believed for peace you describe. May the spirit who gave maintain. More than once the feeling of being cruel has come, accusing me for leaving you without engagement or more promise, making me wonder at the ways of God, a wonder that shaded into resentment. And it is easier to know that he who led gave grace. He knows better than you, Bet, why and how intensely and how long I have desired you, and the struggle it has been to commit you to him alone to comfort when I wanted devilishly hard to have you committed, insofar as an engagement would make it possible to me. But now I know that his loving kindness, forever better than life, is better too than further human loving. For I doubt if even engagement could have wrought the impossible peace you speak of. Praise then, praise for peace. A few days later, Thursday, August 28th, he sat down to write one final letter from semi-civilization, hoping to get some fresh word through before moving on to Shandia, delivered by those who were returning to Kyoto with the boys the next day. You will know whether Tidmarsh preceded us, and if he arrives this afternoon, he will likely go to Pano the first time the weather breaks and get the house swept out for our arrival. The only thing we have to wait on is the arrival of the school teacher. He is due Saturday afternoon, and if things go as scheduled, we will be going in then on Monday, the weather being the only foreseeable variable factor in the plan to date. I personally hope we will get in for the weekend, as we sense we are a burden to the missionary folk here. Our first move will be to get settled comfortably, trekking with Indians, with all our stuff the 4 to 5 hours to Shandia from Pano, and getting housekeeping established next week. Then we settle down to language again and cleaning and building. Even as he hurriedly, prayerfully tried to finish off this letter, writing of how I hope for you and the Macaulays to come join him someday, Dr. Tinmarsh arrived, but not alone. The gear he'd needed to bring down had been too much to fit inside a single vehicle, so his wife, Gwen, had accompanied him in another car with one extra passenger. Elizabeth. Jim, it was so good to see you. Just to walk with you for that brief half hour while you shared your mother's letter with me was good. And the next morning, Jim. Woke at 3:30 a.m., unable to sleep, knowing that she is here. Up at 4:30 with the boys, packed breakfast, and said goodbye to them all. But she was here, and we talked odd bits about the greetings Monday night, about the unfinished letter I gave her because her coming caught me in the middle of it. Then, as we stood, stalling at the kitchen door with the others outside, Elizabeth. I'm still trying to figure out just how we came close that minute. Jim. Suddenly, we leaned toward each other and pressed hard, face to face, only for an instant. Elizabeth, I don't remember you pulling me, nor do I recall coming to you. I just know that your face was against mine suddenly, warmly, briefly. Jim. That's all. But oh, it was a full instant, full of telling things. She came toward me without being pulled, full of quick passion. Then we went out to the car together. Elizabeth. Jim, I know that his mercies are new every morning, but that mercy, that morning, I think it was an especially great one. Another goodbye, but a dear one. Returning to Quieto, she read the half-written letter that her visit had blissfully interrupted. The letter he'd been able to place directly into her hand. In it, he picked up on a line she'd recently written, where she noted marked development in her feelings for him. Those words had intrigued him enough to ask, next time you write me, would you mind enlarging on a theme embodied in this lone sentence in your last? There has been marked development in my feelings since then. It refers to the days when you used to sit in the living room at teas waiting for me before class. For me, there has been change in nothing but intensity from the day we held hands coming in from the airport. Not that it is a small thing, but I am tantalized to know your attitudes then and now. He longed to hear her saying more, saying anything about her love for him, realizing, of course, she might not choose to go into it any more deeply, demurring with one of those wonderful Jim I can'ts. No, she was glad this time to oblige. September 1st. Regarding your question of the statement I made about my feelings having shown development, I, too, of course, have felt it intensifying since April 25th. But in Saturday's letter, you say that you feel now that you can share everything with me. That's what I mean. I find in this analogy to our relationships with God. The man who doesn't know him intimately brings to him only the great needs, the significant things. The man who dwells in his presence knows, as did Jeremiah, that I know the thoughts that come into your mind, every one of them. But he knows also that, apart from his omniscience, God also has an intimate and loving interest in the small things. There is no great with thee, there is no small, for thou art all and fillest all in all. Perfect love casteth out fear. It is this simplicity that constitutes in a great measure, I believe, God's profundity. And so with us, Jim, I find happiness in sharing with you not only the many things we have in common, the things which drew us together initially, but now also the little things we don't have in common. My family, your family, my daily happenings, yours, the things that make us individuals, the things that are involved in your being a man and my being a woman. I think you will understand what I mean. Yes, he understood. He just hoped she understood. How intensely and how long I have desired you, and the struggle has been to commit you to him alone to comfort, when I wanted devilishly to have you committed to me, insofar as engagement would make it possible. His experiences of the coming months in Shandia would confirm to his heart that he'd been right all along in not needing to be married yet. The conditions were too primitive, the demands too all-encompassing. Engagement, however, was something he was bending on, and in thinking of it, and thinking of her, he missed her all the more. September 2nd. Woke wanting you, squirming in bed at the remembrance of the sudden and short but somehow full embrace here at the door of the kitchen. I can hardly remember how it happened, but I think I felt you coming toward me with hardly a suggestion from my outreached hand. And I remember to this moment the hard pushing of your face against my neck. Thanks, darling. It seemed very fitting for that moment, fitting to the place and the brief occasion of your visit. The next one can hardly be fuller, but I hope it can be longer. He went on to write of pulling flower samples up by the roots to take with him into the jungle. Shoe orchids, white with brown spotted centers, growing on a fallen tree over the creek. They are now in a small pack sack, the one we took up Ruku together, with other orchid roots, roses, naranjia, a coffee root, hibiscus, geranium starts, and a poinsettia shoot. I hope things grow like folks say they do. I've got the flower craze worse than I get it some springs in the yard at Portland. My mother loved this, she said. That is one of the things that pleases me so about you, Jim. Your love of the lovely things of life, not just the grand and the wild and the majestic, things which, knowing your apparent personality, I would expect you to like, but also the small, the exquisite, the aesthetic, things which indicate another side of you, not so apparent at first acquaintance. It has been one of the happy discoveries in the past year, along with your devastating tenderness and thoughtfulness. No longer do you seem crude to me, but rather I recognize a certain polish, not the artificial surface polish of convention, never, but shall I say intrinsic, and I appreciate it. He wrote also of a man being brought to their location who, in a drunken scrap Saturday night, had been cut across the back of the neck from ear to ear with a pocket knife. Many of his later letters from Shindio would be dotted with heartbreaking accounts of local people that tried to assist with medicine and basic health care. In your letter, I almost laughed out loud in reading your remarks about the embrace, after writing almost the identical this morning. The sweet smell of tweed is a tender comfort, Betty. Do keep them scented. Now I will close. The afternoon has cleared so that the big pillars of cloud rising in a haze over the jungle, I am writing in the kitchen and can see the Oriente through the door, and stand pure white against the blue sky. Silhouettes of distant birds are sharp against them, going east, and tomorrow happily, and in the will of God, I will follow only too well, I know, against the inner weakness to return, to go back to you. But I feel that I have set my hand, and to look back now would be dishonor. He knows the inner part, and he knows how much of me I really leave with you, and he knows why I leave and for how long. Lovingly, Jim. The letter. Despite the pangs of heart sickness he was feeling, this pioneering adventure is what my father had always prayed for, hoped for, and seen himself doing. It's why he came to Ecuador. It's why he trained and worked and traveled and sacrificed. And with similar anticipation and similar longings, my mother also began feeling waves of excitement, seeing that all her devotion and linguistic study was ready to be put into use for mission work. She wrote, September 4th. The days are amazingly full for me. I don't know just what I manage to do to keep so busy, except that I've been studying so consistently that I find it hard to do anything else. The mornings that used to lag so when I was waiting for you to come to dinner seem to fly by, and likewise the afternoons. I've hardly finished dinner before it's 5, and time to go down for the mail. Again, it is of the Lord's mercy. I never thought it could be this way. And already 5 months yesterday have passed since I left home. And if the time is flying for me, I'm sure it must be even more so for you, and so much to get done. I am so anxious to hear about everything. I want to know all about what you're doing, what you eat, what it's like there, so that I can picture you, Jim. That little taste of shalmera sure gave me ganas, desire, to get into the jungle. My God, speed the day. As always, Betty. By the way, she wrote ganas and put desire in the brackets. But days never really speed when you're missing someone as dearly as these two are now missing each other. The ministry tasks before them were often challenging, sometimes in the extreme, especially in my father's case. Yet rarely did a day pass when they weren't sitting down at some point to add another page or more to a letter already in progress. This season of their lives was by far their most prolific season of correspondence, even though the mail delivery coming in and out of their various locations was subject to unpredictability and delay. Much of the content of their letters involved details of jungle life and missions work, as well as the lively stream of updates of news, family, and personal matters you'd expect from two people eager to share and hungry for information. I wish I could include it all. Any reader would find their exchange of experiences fascinating. They were discovering that even the small details had great interest. But rather than going into the triviality of those exchanges, I will let the profundity and poignancy of their letters speak for themselves with only an occasional comment. Here's my father, recalling the trek into Shandia. September 7th. We made the 3-hour walk in 2.5, sloshing through streams, sliding over roots, greasy with mud. It's not a hard walk, but one can hardly enjoy the forest for having to watch each step so closely. The forest here is not unlike the West, only, of course, much bigger and much emptier, but for that, much more interesting. You came to mind in one spot on a sharp ridge where the trees slid away on both sides into a deep green which seemed bottomless, those queer trees not with round trunks but with concave surfaces between the roots that ribbon out in all directions. You came to mind because I could look up and see the notched horizon of hills that hid you up there in Quieto. And I wondered what you were doing, and of course, why you weren't there to share it with me. Even more forcible thoughts of you flooded back as we burst, a little surprised, into the clearing of the playfield. Right ahead to the left, right ahead and to the left, a huge full moon was balanced between the forest and a straight cloud, and in 60 steps, the river below caught up with the reflection. I had a few moments alone to think of the past 4 months, May, June, July, August, and how we warmed each other over watching them. Oh, Betty. Oh, how I want to share hourly, momently, the wonders of this forest with you. And I am not resigned in the least to the poor compromise of letter writing. There are times, for sheer bulk of the things that to be shared, when I just have to say, we'll talk of this later. Sorry, but I'm afraid even words and conversation won't do. You'll just have to come and visit. This morning I was reading Psalm 13 in the Spanish Moderna, Spanish translation of the Bible, and felt as though it spoke for me in verse 2. How long will I join counsels in my soul, bringing longing in my heart every day? Whenever I take time to think about whenever I take time to think about us, counseling with myself, it brings longing to me. But man's wanting for woman, and more keenly, my own personal reasons for wanting you. I can't help counseling, and it brings you automatically before me. I don't always follow it to the end that David did, but usually I can sing to the Lord, verse 6 of Psalm 13. I hope it is the same for you, but there, but there remains the problem. ¿Hasta cuándo? Even when? There is no, that's his writing. There is still no fulfillment in sight for us. As I see the work ahead, it is like it or not, still to be a long, hard wait. She had asked for details about Shandia, and he sent them. That's cute. So he drew this to her. Continuing his letter. Now, Bets, dearest, I think 11 pages will suffice. I hope it is not scattered as to give the impression of being impersonal, an accusation you've made of my letters before. There is lots of detail yet to be filled in, but I want to finish the page telling you how thankful I am to God for you, for our history together, and for the present rest we have in loving as we are apart. And then, too, I believe him for a happy future for us, so much that I often feel myself thrill, just imagining doing some little social act with you. I don't know why, but I went to sleep last night thinking of how nice it would be to have you at my elbow while I drove the car, like coming home from the Pacific that night, and like times en route in New England. Good night, Betty. Her answer when his letter finally came, September 20th. It was 2 weeks ago that you began your 11-page letter, but only 2 hours ago that I read it. Oh, thank you, Jim, for such a long one, and for telling me the things I want to know. Now I feel that I can picture you at least a little bit, whereas up until now, I've been at a complete loss. I wake in the morning and try to imagine how it is with you, what your room is like, what the day holds for you. It is really too late for me to begin comments on your letter or relating to Quieto things, but I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes. As always, it is difficult when I have to restrain the pen from writing things that come to mind, but I will let you know this. When I came home, a dark, rainy, very cold evening, and read your letter over the second time, tears came. I'm not sure why, besides the fact that I missed you tremendously, unless it was a sentence about no prospect for fulfillment, a long, hard wait. Jim, it is not that this is news to me, or that I am not at least as aware as you are of the price we are asked to pay. It is just that I don't want you to say it. It brings it home with brute force, making me face it again when I have been living only one day at a time in peace. If the inklings I have now prove to be the will of God, it promises to be longer than we know. These inklings included a long talk the day before with Doreen Clifford, the missionary she'd met the past January in New York, who had returned to Ecuador as well. She is beginning lessons in the Colorado language. My mother wrote in her journal, speaking of a work taking place to the west of Quieto, whereas my father's work was off to the east. It would put them on opposite sides of the Andes Mountains, requiring longer plane trips and longer bus trips with many stops and often breakdowns in between. Yet, when I come home, she said in a September 19th journal posting, I began to wonder if God would have me to go down there and help her with the classifying and organizing of material, since of course it is an Aboriginal language and no one has yet done any formal work on it. Anyway, I do not want to go down there. I cannot help but feel that Jim and I will become engaged sometime within the coming year, and it will be hard to settle in one place and then pull up stakes and perhaps go to the Oriente. But God knows that I want to do only His will in all of it, without thoughts or consideration of my own feelings. Oh, Jim, how I need the grace of obedience with cheerfulness, without shadow of hesitation, without any, but Lord, it's been so long already. I want to be one of those who follow the Lamb whithersoever He goeth. He cannot be unmindful of us. He will make up to us all that we feel is lost, all the years that the locust has eaten. I often think, perhaps I should say, of late it has come to me, of the analogy of you and my relation to you, and heaven in relation to us as Christians. Both to me are synonyms. She didn't even write that. Hold on. Both to me are synonymous with rest. We think of the bosom of the Father, of that eternal rest that remaineth for the people of God, of the joy of adoration, complete service in itself, of the many references to the rest, which is heaven. And here upon earth, as I have told you, I have found you in rest. To bring it down to very mundane things, I have not been sleeping well lately and often longed to be in your arms, as you have let me do so often, and just rest. Jim, I just can't get out of my mind the way you said, "Were you asleep, darling?" I don't know how many times in the strangest places that has come to me. But now I must go to bed, the next best substitute for rest, I suppose. She continued writing him every few days. September 24th. A year exactly since I felt God was pointing the way to Ecuador. Never shall I forget the day, alone in my room, struggling to discern between my own feeling and the shepherd's voice, until he kindly showed me that there was no discrepancy between the two. And about this time in the morning, peace came, and I began looking forward to seeing you Friday night at Tinmars's farewell meeting in Plainfield. That was the night of our first embrace, that Friday. O God of stars and flowers, forgive our blindness. No dream of night had dared what thou hast wrought. Last night I went over to T's, and the doctor showed us his pictures of Shandia for Bill and Irene and me. It was so good to see the place where you are. I could see your window in one picture. It looks lovely there. Of course, Dr. T related numerous incidents in his inimitable way. Inimitable. I nearly died when, after Gwen had spouted off about the terrors of the crossing, ever adjective she could scarce up. Dr. T said, yes, it is a very trying experience. Oh, accent, I guess. I'm sure the word trying could never be called an exaggeration. He gave me the bird you sent up. It's beautiful, isn't it? I don't quite know whether to thank you for it or what. The doctor simply said you wanted it kept up here in Quieto, so had asked him to give it to me. However, I appreciate that anyway, and for the present, it is hanging in my room. Now, as for your letter, a wonderful one. You say the forest there is bigger than in the west. I wonder if you mean an area, or if the trees are bigger. I must confess, I was a bit disappointed when I saw the western forest, as it just seemed to be bush, without many really big trees. None, it seemed, with thick trunks. The birds and flora must be beautiful, and the rivers, judging by T's pictures, looked quite different from what I could have expected. I am glad you don't have your nose in a vocabulary book all day. You have more than a one-track mind. It must be a lot of fun to see what you can make out of nothing, so to speak. I'm just dying to try it myself. I was sorry to hear that you're using a plastic tablecloth, but sorrier still to hear of the meager fare you put on it. Rice, platano, yuca. I do hope you'll be able to add some variety later. 1 second, please. I need to take a drink of water. Okay. The letter lists List of things my father needed in Shandia. Thankfully, he drew pictures of certain items she might not immediately recognize. Now, as for the stuff from the bodega, you asked for a yellow card with a set of steel drills. The only yellow card in the barrel had hacksaw blades. His drawings are actually really good. Sorry, I just took that in. I couldn't find a leatherette case with steel punches either, but I found a leatherette case with what looked to me like steel drills, so I'm sending that down. I took everything out of the barrel looking for the punches, but couldn't find them, so sorry. It surely is a good thing you drew pictures. I never have identified some of the items. Incidentally, your list says that the punches should be in the blue barrel, so since I couldn't find them there, I didn't go through every other piece. The 3x5 papers I'm having made, there was no such thing in Kyoto. Hope they're ready Saturday, as they promised. Pilar escorted me up to get the honey, good stuff and cheap, so we bought some too for the Arias. Your notes about the onomatopoeia of the language were tantalizing. How I'd love to get my talons into something like that. God knows my heart. I believe he is good to lead that way sometime, to language work, I mean. Doreen has been up since Tuesday, a week ago, and has spent 2 nights with me and is coming back tonight. We've had some wonderful talks together. I feel a unity with her that I've not felt with anyone since Bunny. We talked till 2 a.m. both times, and then I've been with her several afternoons. September 28th. As you will have discovered, I'm sending quite a few letters for you to read, along with mail for Eladio and Pete, which I've picked up. I was so glad to hear from Van. I'd written her when I was in Guayaquil. Funny that she speaks of our being in Peru. She had the address on the envelope correct. Her letter is an honest one, in contrast, I fear, to the many of the missionary reports Dr. Nida used to speak of. Oh, Jim, yesterday I just beseeched God for truth in the inward parts. It has been shattering to realize the things that have gone on in the name of Jesus Christ. People always said that a great many disillusionments were in store for us when we reached the field. Dr. Harris impressed this on me, but I shall never forget the conviction with which Mrs. Harris quoted, "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee." I have been praying lately on the ground in the psalmist used, in English often, for thy name's sake, in Spanish, and I think I like it better, por amor por amor de tu nombre. It is a sure ground. God must preserve his own glory, but there are times when we must leave it entirely up to him, when it looks to us, as Service puts it, that his glory has been dragged in the mire. I read through A.C.'s God Missionary again last week, Crooked Patterns, may God have mercy upon us, that the only pattern shown may be that of the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. For the kingdom of God is not in word, but in power. It is no game we find ourselves in. It is the war of the ages, and we wrestle against principalities and powers. And without purity in us, there is no power. The hymn, "Oh, Make Me Pure," has been running on in my mind. It has come to me that part of God's reason for taking us, you and I, through suffering is for the answer to this prayer. When I think, why should I have to go this way? I realize that there may very well be special testings ahead for which I could not be prepared in any other way. Had a letter from a close friend of mine who is now entering her first year of med school and has just become engaged to a man who is going to Indonesia as soon as possible. She has 5 years of med school ahead of her before she can think of going to the field. She says, it will be a hard road, Bets, and not one we would choose to travel, but we rejoice to think that the Lord has called us to go the hard way. She knows nothing about you, but it was encouraging to have one more evidence that we are not the only ones. Sometimes I feel as though we are. What Van says about the lonely way for those who choose Christ cannot be denied. I realize, if not fully yet to some extent, that loneliness would not end if we were to be married. Partings would only be that much more poignant. And if now, when we are one only in mind and spirit, I feel torn when you go, what would it be if we were one in flesh? Tidmarsh tells me that Ed and Mary Lou expect to be here before Christmas. That's wonderful. And of course, I cannot separate the idea from what you said about coming out to meet them. I wonder if we shall be able to see each other. Oh, Jim, here I am anticipating it already. Oh, the Senorita Navarrete says their apartment should be finished in November, and she'd love to have Ed and Mary Lou there. Says she could help Mary Lou with shopping and such that would be difficult at first. I think it would be an ideal setup. Bill and Irene are looking for some sort of apartment that they could use for bodega and for living quarters while in Quieto. I do wish we could find such a place for all of us. Incidentally, I have my suspicions that Irene is pregnant, but I didn't ask. Neither she nor Bill look too well, though the baby is fat and healthy. I guess I had better let this suffice. If I leave now, I may get to tease before the rain. You should have seen the hill we've had. One day, a whole shoulder of Pinchincha was completely white, just like snow, and it didn't melt for almost 24 hours. Thank you again so very much, Jim, for your 11 pages. I really appreciate it, knowing how much there is to do. Following these three of my mother's, and here are the next three letters my dad wrote. September 27th. Pete and I should be doing something besides writing letters this afternoon, as there are plenty of things which the doctor left on that list to be done in his absence, which we haven't completed yet. But we were waylaid between 2 and 3 by siesta and haven't recovered yet. It's hot, humid, and threatening rain, not at all conducive to walking back to the school and cutting down bench and table legs for the smaller boys, our scheduled project for this afternoon. Besides, since it was too hot to sleep during siesta and all I could think about was you, and since I want to have something ready to go early Monday morning, I really should be writing you. No one, not even Pete, really knows how close we have been, and resultantly are. I have not made secrets with you to broadcast them, but to keep them for my lonely thoughts, looking out at the stars from my bed, or smiling at the dawn, or watching cloud forms come to pieces in the blue afternoon heavens like today. I was reliving that afternoon in the little straw hut while it rained just now. Were those two really us? And the day I found you running down the road, hoping to beat us to the bodega and ripe with tears, was it really broad, sunny daylight? Yes, yes, I shout back at myself, and what was may well be again. I wonder if I could stroke your cheek tenderly now, with broken nails, calluses, and a dozen blisters all in different stages of development. A dark hammer, smashed thumb, and singed hair all up my hand and wrist from working with gasoline stoves and rubbish fires. I know it would not feel the same, but I would sure like to try. October 1st. It is such a pleasure to write you now, Betty. I'm beginning to feel what you said several times, that you often had to resist writing almost as a temptation. So I find it these days composing ideas at odd moments that I should write down, but I feel that I must not. That it would be something akin to extravagance to write to you every time I wanted to. So I desist to study, to repair an Indian's gun, to go out and see how the men are working, and maybe lay a hand to it with them. And now, when I am seated to write, I always wish I had to set down the rush of ideas as they came. I always wish I had set down the rush of ideas as they came. Those seem better, somehow fresher. And if writing is pleasure, how shall I describe receiving, especially now that you seem so much freer to express yourself? But why must I always make you cry? I'm sorry I say that we both know, but it doesn't help me any to say I'm sorry. It is a serious molestia to me, an annoyance. That's what molestia, anyway, an annoyance. Occasionally to think of how far I can really be from your feelings and completely failing to understand how things react in you. I really feel sorry at such times, for since that it is a basic distinction of nature between us, that I can write or say a thing without a thought and find it wounds or troubles you. I wonder at myself because it is not hard afterward, hearing you explain why you are troubled, to understand clearly. But why, now that I know you so well, should I still have to blunder out such things and be told afterward? I don't know, Bets, dear, but I wish I could be more sensible to you. I suppose it will take living together to adjust such things, and I hope I am not too hard on you in the meantime. October 8th. This time a year ago, I was sitting a little self-consciously and quite sunburned in the Howard's home in Moorestown. All day today, my last birthday has come back in daydreams, and I have lived 100 little things we did together, making it the happiest birthday ever. And now, with rain and thunder bringing on bedtime, come back those hours of lolling on the shore at Great Bay Harbor, and the remembrance of how thick that quilted jacket was to fill you through, and walking to the beaver dam, thinking how hard it was to really be comfortable walking with my arm around you on that sandy, rutted road. and how you pushed me off in the moonlight by the Keswick Lake and went and stood away from the bench, and how you slept in my arms at birdsong. It makes me downright happy, Betty, just to remember it, and so thankful that God led us that way then, when you and love itself were so new and fresh to me that I didn't know quite what to make of it all. My diary notes are scanty, but sufficient to reveal the bewildering joy that overtook me last fall. I shall never forget going into Dave's room one of those nights and standing for a moment, more than a moment, perhaps almost a full minute, realizing that this was it, and telling myself, Elliot, you are in love with this woman. It had never touched me so keenly before, never really shook me with a thrill until then. Hold on. I thought we could finish with this section. We're going to finish this. I'm sorry. This is long. I'm going to tell you this, guys, right now. I wouldn't have finished this book if I weren't doing this. I'm sorry. It's the truth. I've admitted it. I'm a book not finisher. I would have left it. But here we are. Where was I at? Dang it. Okay. It had never touched me so keenly before, never really shook me with a thrill until then. And the suddenness of it, my naivete, and absolute lack of direction or plan in coming to Morristown amazed me now, with the realization coming simultaneously that I not only could love as a man ought, I had doubted that seriously once since Wilma, but that I actually did so love, made the sheets coldly memorable that night. And a phrase came back from some snatch I wrote years ago as I tried to sleep, something about curling inside myself and glowing in amber gladness of you. Well, it remains the happiest birthday of all for me, and it marks the beginning of the happiest year of my life so far. I never knew, not in dreams, the joy of really loving this giving of oneself, not to be made happy, but to make another so, and finding in it what happiness is. Oh, thank you, Betty, for the bringing of love to me by just being what you are and by sharing what you are with me. By sharing what you are with me. Elliot, you are in love with this woman. Perhaps this is why, lost in such beautiful musing, the news of my mother's decision to go west with Doreen struck him with such force that she had written in her journal, I lean strongly toward going down to San Miguel to help Doreen get a start on the Colorado language. She hasn't had linguistics, and since I have, it seems almost incumbent that I should go. Her only real reluctance, other than the obvious, was whether she should commit to a place like tiny San Miguel, where most of the residents are Christians, and vast reaches of the northern Oriente without one witness. Oh, Lord, direct. By mid-October, though, she had made up her mind. The Lord has given peace about my going down to San Miguel. This news, along with other standard relays of communication, had been reported by shortwave radio to the others, including the men down in Shandia during one of their scheduled link-ups. This is too long. Just get it done, Priscilla. He told her of his reaction to it in the remainder of his October 8th letter. I don't know why the sudden word over the radio this morning about your going to San Miguel should have affected me as it did. Formerly, I had even hoped you would do just that, but now it actually comes to seeing you leave Quieto. Well, it made me quietly pensive all day. It was something like saying goodbye all over again. It puts you so much farther away, and I know that if I ever should make up a sudden trip out to Quieto now, you wouldn't be there. There is, of course, no prospect of any such thing, but the idea haunts me. It has been a help to know your surroundings and something of your schedule there, to be able to think of you different times during the day and picture you. But remember, it will mean your letters will have to be full and frequent for my sake, if they do pile up in Quieto. I'm glad you have decided to go, glad when I am in my right mind, and grateful for your guidance for you now. But I am not always in my right mind. Oh, I don't know how to tell you, Betty, or even if I should, but our months in Quieto put me on an entirely different emotional level toward you than I was on before. Does it sound wrong to say that where you have been given rest since parting, I have only had uprisings of stronger want than ever? Where you have had peace, I have found myself at perfect war. Continually, I am experiencing things now that I heard you describe of your pre-Quieto problems, of which I knew little then, but which I fully feel now. I mentioned last letter the strong urge to write, and that something that makes one restrain. I could add the crazy wish of wanting years to pass suddenly, the old rebel of why should Why should it have to be so with me? The needing of a place to rest? Could it be that we are crossing the same river but far enough apart to be at different depths, wisely kept so that we would not sink together? I seem to feel it all much more keenly out here. There comes a sighing even as I write. On a recent Wednesday, in fact, in the cool of the day, this sighing had turned into a little chat with the Lord out in the airstrip. Decided finally what I have been thinking for months. Engagement is the best thing for bets for me, for the work. Wrote Ed to buy a ring for me and bring it. I am withdrawing all my feelings about long engagements and getting ready for one. When God brings Ed. And whenever God brought Ed, my dad's plan, as he wrote cryptically to my mother, was to be the one who went to meet him in Kyoto. And wouldn't that be a good time for her to come back for a visit as well? So let's plan in the will to meet in Kyoto after Ed arrives, Christmas or June. Not a very definite date, but I hope we can keep it. There might be a little surprise waiting for her. The letter. Funny, she almost found it out by complete accident when the surprise ended up literally in her lap one day at the mission office. If she hadn't been such an honorable woman with such a sensitive conscience, let's just say I'm not so sure I would have had a noble as a response as she did to the dilemma in which she found herself. October 15th. Yesterday I faced one of the greatest temptations I've ever had. I found that Jim had written a letter to Ed McCauley and put the please forward on the envelope. Knowing his correct address, I thought I would just transfer it to another envelope with the right address. In doing so, I allowed myself to unfold it and found that there was a page which began, "Dear Buddy, this is a private letter." My eyes caught the words Betty and engaged. And I immediately slapped it into the envelope and sealed it. But my heart asked, was he confiding to Ed the things he can never tell me, telling him, for example, what has made him hesitate to become engaged? What barriers exist in his mind? What doubts may he have of his love? Or was he, perhaps, telling him that he has begun thinking of engagement? God knows. I must be honorable with Jim above all others. Secrets really stayed secret with my godly mother. And even as curious as she must have been to see what was inside, can you imagine? She knew she couldn't read it. No, it was private, and she didn't want to hurt my father or breach his trust, even in his wholly innocent way. What an upright and wonderful trait of hers. I admire it so much, just as I do her commitment to follow God's will without reservation. October 17th, Gwen tells me, you seemed a little taken aback when she told of my going to San Miguel. I guess it's not to be wondered at. I would have told you my last letter had I been absolutely certain, but it was still in the question stage. You remember of our talk the day before you left, where we were by the piano. I told you that although it seemed very simple to you, from my heart I was not at all sure of going to the Oriente, and I felt no special urge to learn Quechua. You know that for 6 years I have been sure of God's call to linguistic work, and I feel it was to be a pioneer. This is my opportunity, and I am as clear about it as I was about the call to Ecuador. The way God led me was unmistakable, and as I had practically put all thought of San Miguel out of my mind for various quite logical reasons, but the Lord leads us by paths we know not, and I am grateful for knowledge of the next step. What it may mean to you and me personally, I cannot consider now. I know that you will understand and agree that neither of us owes anything to anyone but obedience to God. I had one of the happiest dreams I've ever had of you the other morning. I had waked early, but went back to sleep, only to wake an hour or so later with the most delicious, relaxed, peaceful sense of having been with you. The details were all erased with the coming of consciousness, but oh, it was wonderful to wake and know that you love me, which I believe is not only a dream. Thank you, Jim, for your kindness and apologizing for making me cry. I felt no need of apology of any sort, but your tenderness is always a wonder to me. Just your phrase, living together, did something to me. The thought had somehow never come to me in just those words, and your saying them left me shaken. The joy of such an idea is unimaginable at this stage. A phrase from a song I love came to me. I bring a prayer that God will bless and keep you through every moment with its joys or tears. I pray his arms may tenderly enfold you to guard you. Sometime perhaps I can write the whole thing, but I do pray and trust that he will be your rock and deliverer from every peril of the enemy and the forest. As ever, Betty. You guys, I have to stop. I'm so sorry. Time is ticking, and I got things I got to do. I apologize. I don't mean to put my exhaustion towards you. It's not you. It's me. This is a lot. It's wordy. And I appreciate your attention. You guys do not have to listen to me reading this. I hope you do enjoy it. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and attention. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll come back. I'll have to come back this afternoon. I will come back this afternoon, okay? This is gonna be part 1. I'll come back this afternoon and finish reading just this section so that we can get through this section, because we need to get through this section. But I need a break. I don't have anything else to say. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will be back this afternoon because I'm going to finish this section. I don't know when. I'll schedule it. Love you. Bye-bye.